gave us our first platinum album over here. It was great, you know, to come down here and hear it on the radio and stuff. A song called Run to the Hills. Yo. Hello again, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden at the controls in the Mark's Midnight Metal Shop Madness Workshop here. So everything's going very strange and peculiar here, and the lights are going dim and flames are starting to engulf my legs as the lads from AC/DC kick up with the Highway to Hell. Bruce Dickinson, and you're in tune with the number of the beast. Triple M FM on Mark's Midnight Metal Shop in Sydney. Continuing the devilish, demonic, sort of Satan-worshipping theme here. Actually, we got a load of rubbish talked about us in America about all that. People think that because we have Eddie on the front cover of the Number of the Beast album, that over there in America they got no sense of humour sometimes about things like that, and they think that we're all wandering around with crucifixes and, you know, crucifying cats and dead dogs and all that kind of stuff. And that's just absolutely not true. We just eat them in the dressing room afterwards. Right, this is the Number of the Beast. Yeah. Hello there, it's Bruce Dickinson again, still here, they haven't killed me yet, and you're listening to Mark's Midnight Metal Shop, but Mark isn't here at the moment because I killed him. And this is Motley Crue actually coming up, old friends of ours and drinking buddies and what have you. They toured with us in Europe, they did, on this current Power Slave World Slavery Tour, whatever it's called. And really very nice chaps, actually. You read all this stuff about them, about how they molest women and, you know, drink bottles of Jack Daniels in one gulp and go and do unmentionable things to chickens and all the rest of it. And it's really nice because it's all true. This is called Looks That Kill. Hello there, it's Bruce Dickinson again from Iron Maiden, of which I am, unfortunately, a member. I am responsible in part for that dreadful noise, but I'm quite proud of it, really, actually. I think we're not bad, you know. One of these days we'll probably give up our day jobs and start, you know, doing something, maybe go on tour or something like that, you know. If you know anybody who wants a good bar band, I mean, we're available. We're cheap, you know, we'll do it for £5 bob. Right, going on to the new album. It's called Power Slave, which is my fault because I wrote the song called Power Slave, so blame me. You can send me all your hate mail and all the rest of it, and unpleasant, wet, slimy things in shoe boxes and all the rest of the stuff that I know you get up to secretly. Did you ever do that when you were a kid? We used to have this really, really horrible trick we used to do, which is really disgusting, actually. I don't even know if I can tell you about it on the radio. You used to get a little brown paper bag, and when you felt a bit, you know, a bit dodgy, you felt one coming on, you know, you take this brown paper bag and fill it full of whatever, you know, whatever was coming on at the time, and take it to the person you really hated most, put it on their front doorstep and douse it in like lighter fluid and set light to it, then ring the doorbell, and they'd come running out and go, oh, put the fire out, oh, and stamp all over it. Oh, it's horrible. And what's all this got to do with music? Well, absolutely nothing really, but it's a good story. And what's it got to do with ancient Egypt? Even less, except that, well, I don't know if they maybe used camel droppings in ancient Egypt for it, I don't know. This is a song about ancient Egypt. All that was intended to establish that. And it's the title track of the new album of Iron Maiden, with the Egyptian motif, as they say in America. The Egyptian motif. It's Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden here, and you're listening to Triple M in Sydney, and you're listening to Mark's Midnight Metal Shop, and Mark isn't here, but I am, so you can complain later on. And that was Power Slave by Iron Maiden. And that was the Egyptian motif, as the Americans say. That was the Egyptian motif.
Hi there, this is, why did you choose the Egyptian motif for your tour?
And actually, we brought it all the way from Willesden in North London, the pyramids, to Australia, and we're going to be doing some concerts over here, which you probably know by now. If you don't, you do now. So that's a good excuse to avoid the towns of Sydney, Melbourne, Wollongong, Adelaide, Canberra, Newcastle and Brisbane. And we're going to be doing all those sort of places, and we're going to be bringing the Egyptian motif, as the Americans call it, all the way from Willesden, North London, into those towns, and I'll shut up and play some more music. This is one to scare the living daylights out of most people. It's a song called Scarred for Life from the Rose Tattoo. It was Scarred for Life from the Rose Tattoo, chaps, and this is a song which I think maybe got played on the radio a little bit in Australia, and got played a little bit on the radio in in America and a little bit on the radio in England. In fact, we got a little bit of radio play almost everywhere. Probably not in Antarctica very much, but then there's only penguins to listen to it down there. Actually, it's all about war and what a generally bad idea war is. But unfortunately, people have got this strange fascination with it. There's all these journals that you can buy, like magazines and stuff, Psychopath Quarterly and that sort of stuff, You must confess, a lot of people go around, just wearing combat jackets and stuff like that, and they think it's pretty cool. I do as well. There's this whole thing about the military, about, being a little bit trendy to wander around and look as though you just come back from Vietnam, even though, in fact, you're only 14 years old, but never mind, maybe nobody will notice. But there's this strange fascination with war, and it really is a bit of a bummer because it kills a lot of people and it wastes an awful lot of money that, like all this stuff they've been doing, rock relief for Africa and everything. It always seems daft to me that they spend all these billions and billions of pounds on guns and, all this kind of stuff, when really they should be spending it on feeding people. Go off me high horse now. Here's a song called 2 Minutes to Midnight. And you're listening, I'm from Iron Maiden, by the way, and you're listening to Triple FM in Sydney, and you're listening to Mark's Midnight Metal Shop, and we ripped his head off earlier on, so he's a little bit incapacitated at the moment, but somewhat like Eddie's brain, we're going to put it back together again, probably after we've eaten it. This is actually one of my favourite bands of all time. Just got back together again and started their world tour off in Australia. Yes, you know who I'm talking about. Yes, the Beverly Sisters, the Nolans. No, actually, it's Deep Purple, really. Is this song called Highway Star? Hello there, this is Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden, and unfortunately, the evening is nearly about to draw to a close, and I'm about to go back and sleep in my coffin with earth specially imported with the Egyptian motif, as the Americans call it, all the way from North Willesden. And we're about to sign off, but before we do, this is a little song which we were going to issue as a single in America to kind of mess people up a little bit and mess around with their heads, because we thought it would be quite funny, because it's about 13 minutes long, this particular track. And we just wondered what they'd make of it, and whether or not they'd walk out in the middle of it, or what they'd do, or whether or not they'd have lunch and come back and listen to the end of it or something, or what they'd do. But we decided not to do it in the end, because we didn't think even they'd actually, we thought that maybe it would get it played on the radio a little bit over there, because it's such a good song, and it's kind of a little concept piece. It's called The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. It's based on this old English poem of the same name, written by a guy called Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who actually used to do far too many drugs for his own good. But one of the results of this was he used to do all this poetry and stuff, while he was smoking all this marijuana or whatever it's called. I don't know what the stuff is really. I understand they used to make rope out of it in those days. Just called it hemp. Actually, Queen Victoria used to smoke it. Did you know that? Queen Victoria used to have really bad period pains, and one of the ways of sort of getting rid of them in those days was to they have hemp infusions, I think it was. So every time she used to get a bit of a pain in her stomach, I suppose it was a good excuse. So, Albert, I'm having one of those hemp infusions. So if I seem to be going a bit wally, it's just the hemp infusion, Jolly good for you, Albert, My God, the state of the empire. The rime of the ancient mariner, if you dare. Albert, could I have another hemp infusion, please?